Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jury House podcast. I'm Noah Massey,
And I'm Jimmy L.
and we are here to talk about week 6 of Big Brother 3. This was a bit of a weird
Yeah.
week in terms of the way they did their scheduling here. We get a supersized episode of Big Brother 3 here, and we get tricked into watching a recap episode at the start
Yeah.
of the week here. But
Which is have they ever done that before with the recap? Like a full episode recap?
oh yeah, they definitely
Oh.
definitely for Big Brother 26 this past season, they definitely
Oh.
did one that was the one where they brought in Taylor Hale and Jag
Yes.
and Cody
Yeah.
to
To
to do it.
to
So
give
it
their
was a
thoughts. Yeah.
little bit different, but I will say, yeah, didn't really care for that episode. I did think that similar to that Big Brother 26 recap episode, I like the idea that if you haven't watched the show,
Hmm.
this kind of gives you a rundown of things. But, if you've been watching since the first episode, I don't really think it had
Well,
anything.
it was also editing, of course, and I know I bring this up again every single time. However, like some of the things that they edited in obviously was either from the live feeds or some things that did not originally air. And so
Right.
they just kind of slid some of those things in to give us better context. So I'm like, I get it and I understand it, but like a full episode, that was that's outrageous to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you make a good point that they do get some live feeds stuff that we haven't seen before in the episode. So there is something for new viewers and people that have been watching the season.
And
So
and I do want to say this too because it hurt my feelings because
okay,
I told you that I was so excited to see this kind of competition for the head of household, this endurance competition,
right,
and
yeah,
so I was excited to watch that piece. But then you kind of sprinkled in all these damn recaps, and I was just like, come on, like you putting me on this high, and then you're bringing me back. Like this is pissing me off here. It's starting to hurt my feelings. It was
yeah.
just mixed emotions for me.
I, I will say there are certain things from an editing standpoint that I enjoyed. Like I enjoyed Danielle telling Amy about the food competition and kind
Yeah,
of narrating that
and
because it was
catching.
cool to have her telling things from
Yeah,
memory and then seeing the actual things play out.
yeah,
I did think that was kind of a clever way to do things there.
agreed.
But yeah, so we are at week 6 of Big Brother 3. We are almost halfway, or probably more than halfway at this point, done with the season. And yeah, so we will probably skip over that recap episode, like we said, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about in the second and third episodes of this week in Big Brother 3. So let's get into it.
Okay.
All right. So we open episode 19 with a DR from Chiara. Of course, last week we had a situation where we had Chiara as the HOH, and we finally said goodbye to Josh. It was, again, very, very overjoyed to have him out of the game here.
Yeah.
Um, but we get Chiara saying in the DR that she was a little bit worried when the vote came back 5-0 that
Mhm.
it might go the other way because, of course, she made the choice to put Josh up against Roddy last week, which was a pretty wild decision, but lucky for her, she was able to get her target out.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
um, Something that I thought was interesting right off the bat here is Roddy echoes a similar sentiment, but he does it kind of in front of the entire group, and and Jason says in the DR, like, when he said that, that made me realize that, oh, this guy doesn't trust me.
Like, and rightfully so. Like, come on. Like, I gave you my word. Like, I haven't given you any reason to not trust me. So, like, why would you throw this out? And again, at least in front of everybody, you know. So, and if you were going to say that, you probably could have worded it a little bit differently. Like, you know, like I was scared that one or two of you guys would have at least wanted me out. Like, and then that way, it's not pinpointing the entire house. And so, you know, yeah, I think he could have, because I understand his, because you're on the block after all, you know, like, so
Right.
they can go either way.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Until Julie gives the vote count and until she says the name of the person, it can go either way.
mhm,
So I get that. But yeah, like you said, it's wild to say it in the manner in which he said it because, you know, people aren't necessarily going to know how to take that from you, and they're going to kind of get the assumption that maybe you don't trust them as much as
mhm.
they thought that you did. So then we get, of course, our countdown. We got 5 down, 5 to go.
Yeah.
And but we do have one more coming back into the house, of course. That is Miss Amy here, Miss Southern Belle. And, I don't know necessarily that anyone was super thrilled to have her back, but
Yeah.
we know at least one person is in Marcellas, so I am happy for him, I guess.
Same. I mean, because I could care less about her being back in the house. And I told you I'm not a big fan of her voice or
Yep.
her personality or the fact that she's from Memphis. But
Hmm.
I do love that Marcellus called her out on her hair.
Oh, yeah.
Because those braids were ridiculously, like, not cute, but I'm really glad he called her out on it. Like, to not, because you're good friends, but you should still be able to call each other out. And so he did.
Absolutely. Yeah, Marcellus called her out a couple of times, and both times I think he was
Spot
perfectly
on.
valid in uh, doing that. And she had some wild things to say regarding some of those call-outs, but we'll get to
Mhm.
that in a bit.
All right, all right.
So, of course, Chiara is in the diary room, and she is not thrilled that Amy is back. And, of course, that is because they did not leave off on the best foot, even though Chiara said that, they were parting as friends and not enemies. I don't believe that for a second.
Not 1 second.
But somebody who is excited to have her back is Lisa, who is, in the diary room saying that it was the better choice for her,
Hmm.
but she kind of breaks down a little bit when Amy tells her that Eric says hi.
Yeah.
So, she's going through it a little bit after that humongous betrayal
I
that
mean,
she did to him.
but was it a betrayal? Like, was it?
I mean, no, I don't think so. But on the other hand, like, I can see the idea of being in a showmance and then you have the chance to vote someone back in. Like, I'm sure it hurt Eric's ego a little bit. So,
Probably so.
you know,
Yeah.
um,
I'm glad she did it. I'm really glad she did it because it would have hurt her game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I will, I can't. I still fault her for putting herself in the position of like, okay, you get in a showmance, of course you're going to be targeted because you're in, you've got a partner that you're definitely taking to final two, and like, why would you do that? That's a huge target on your back. But I do give her credit in having enough sense to be like, all right, I need to kind of wake up here. I need
separate.
to play my own game.
Hmm.
So, we rarely see that in Big Brother. So anytime that we do see it, I'm happy to see it.
Well, she's the princess of darkness, so what else can you expect?
Right? The Princess of Darkness was uh, rolling her clouds of destruction this week,
Yeah,
so it worked out for her.
it did.
Um, so if you did not watch that recap episode, we find out right at the very end of it that Amy wins the head of household competition.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was an interesting competition. You had said
Yeah,
last week that it was kind of cool to see this type of endurance competition. I do feel like we get some information about the circumstances of Amy's win here that,
later on,
yeah, that doesn't make this competition as great as
agreed.
it started out, but I still think, I mean, they went for like 2 hours. So,
Yes. Oh yeah. And then I'm like they had the squid thrown on them, the seaweed and the cod liver oil and the electric eels. And so I'm just they had a lot in that damn tub. And so that was a lot to put them through. And like you said, for 2 hours, that's just weird. I
yeah,
mean, fun for me to see, but
right. Yeah, I wondered if those electric eels, like, I wonder,
like
I,
were they alive?
yeah,
No, I doubt it. Like
no,
because I think it was Jason that said something in reference to it during the recap. And so and I literally wrote that down. I was just like, do you really think Big Brother's about to shock you? Like I could not see them physically shocking them. And so I was just like, I couldn't see that being a thing. Because even I originally thought the squid was alive. Originally. I
right.
thought they were alive, but I heard Amy later on to say it was dead squid, and I'm just like everything else, even the cod liver oil. I'm just like, really, it's just oil, like nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing alive. It's not. It's just slimy. And so I was like, if that was the nature of kind of where they were going with it, I couldn't see the eel being alive.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like they definitely were dead. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, they, yeah, that was, it was interesting. It was interesting.
Gross. But
Gross.
Amy was proud of herself. You know,
Yeah,
she said she felt that she had won. And I say this because you were just talking about the context of it later on in the show that we kind of get privy to. But she was proud of it. She was like she felt she had won. You know, she had come back and did something good. And I was like, okay, like way to go, Amy. I was on board with Amy. Like way to
right.
go. Proud of you, Amy.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking too, because I mean, you're back in the house after a couple of weeks, and you did what you had to do to get back in. You were
Mm,
determined to get back in. You were determined to win this HOH, and so yeah, I gave her a lot of credit
a lot
for
of credit.
sure.
Same.
So, of course, with this result, we also get Roddy that is none too thrilled about it. He was the first person within 2 minutes of the competition starting that was out of the tub, and he's really wishing that he hadn't given up so easily. Chiara is very much echoing that same sentiment there, and yeah, it you know it's one of those things where it's like, I think he kind of forgot, like, oh, that this is a
He
game
has to
here
play.
that, yeah, it's just like, nope, nope, I'm out of
Yeah.
here. Those kind of reflexes kind of kicked in there. So we get our HOH room reveal. We get, Amy. I think she gets her music. She gets, whatever snacks she got. I don't know if she got cheese.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Uh, and then there are some pictures of her, and Marcellas calls out the fact that there's a Confederate flag in the background of one of these things.
Yes.
And her response is, I was in a sorority, honey.
Yes.
That doesn't make it better,
It does
in
not.
case anyone was wondering.
And the crazy thing is, I know people like her. I keep saying that I know people like her that it doesn't register. It's normal life. It is just it doesn't register. And
Mhm.
so but yeah.
Yeah,
Bless her
yes.
heart.
Bless
Hmm.
bless her heart
Yeah.
indeed. Um, yeah, so, we get the whole kind of dog and pony show that they do in the HOH room, but we get Chiara in the diary room, and she's saying, I'm not going to play up to her. She knows who I am. She knows how I feel. And so then we immediately cut to her trying to make it sound like Amy's eviction wasn't that bad because she knew it was coming, and
Hmm.
she's very much playing up to Amy to get on her good side here. And it
Yeah.
it's that typical, like, it's the typical thing we see in the game all the time. But again, I keep bringing up, like, this is such high school
Yeah.
kind of BS, like petty girl stuff that it's, I don't know. There,
Honestly, no, I even forgot because, like, during this little, I guess,
yeah,
recap that they were doing, I forgot that there was even this tension between them and
right,
this whole three-way crap with Roddy. I
right,
completely forgot about it because
right,
I'm just not involved in that kind of, like, I don't stay
right.
tuned with silliness like that. But I really, until they said it again, I forgot. I
Yeah,
forgot.
yeah. And this is the thing that I don't like about Amy being here, is that it kind of brings us back to this early
Mm,
stuff in the game, right? And
mm,
this stuff that I feel is just not really interesting. It's
yeah,
it's not interesting conflict. I feel like the game up to this point has kind of been progressing pretty well strategically, and with Amy back, it kind of feels
takes
like
it
we
back.
are taking a step back. Yeah.
I can see that.
Um.
I can see. I mean, not to mention, with all fairness, I mean, hell, she was voted out, and then she's
Right.
back. So, so that is literally like a step back into the house. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That.
Wow. Wow. Hmm.
So Lisa comes in during this conversation, and she doesn't say too much, but later she's talking to Danielle about it, and
Mm-hmm.
they are having this discussion, and Lisa says that she's glad that they can now get Amy to do their dirty work. And so
Mm.
that is something that we will kind of track through the episode here, just how they are going to get Amy to do their dirty work here.
I
So,
would. I do
Yep.
want to go back for one moment
Yep.
because there's something that Kiara said to Amy during their conversation, and she was just like, "We all wanted you back in the house."
Right.
Did you catch that?
I
Like
I did. Yeah.
that was too bold of a lie, and
Right.
then for no reason. Like it was 100% unnecessary. It does nothing for your game at all. If you're gonna be nice, cordial, suck up to the head of household, fine. But to just boldly lie like that was for no reason. We all wanted you back in. We knew it was gonna be you, and I'm like, come on, Kiara. Like, don't do that. Like, don't do that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because if she does leave again, she's gonna know what the vote was,
Was.
and yeah, like I don't feel like it softens anything to be like, we chose you to come back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you also all chose me to leave the first time.
That is so true. Yes.
So it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know.
Agreed. Yeah.
So we get a conversation between Marcellus and Roddy in the hammock and in the diary room. Roddy is
Mhm.
basically telling us that it was important that he have this conversation with Marcellus because he's had a bit of a reputation where people think that he is masterminding
Mhm.
everything. Marcellus says in the DR that they just sort of talked about Roddy's relationship to Josh and the taint that still hangs on him because of that, and that now the taint hangs on him because of things that Chiara has done. And so,
Yeah.
Roddy tries to kind of tell Marcellus like there's a difference between the deals that you make with people and the people you spend time with. And I wasn't exactly sure what he was trying to get
Right.
across. I think he was trying to say like the game is separate from the relationships that you have
Mm.
with people in the game. I don't know if that was necessarily his thinking
Mm.
there, but
I could see
you
that
know,
though. I could
yeah,
see it if it was because he also I remember him saying about his views in general,
right,
and if other people shared his views on black people and gay people, like
right,
like Marcellus would never have a problem. So I personally I just took it because I even put down that they were like super cozy in this hammock.
yeah,
I
oh yeah,
I I really yeah, and I also told you a long time ago that Roddy is like Marcellus is going to get bit real quick because
hmm
of his infatuation with Roddy. I said that, and so when I was watching this, I was like, it was really just Roddy's charm. He
yeah,
knows when to put it on, and he doesn't care what sex it is. I don't think. He knows when to put it on, and I think he's just charming Marcellus. Is all that this is. Saying the
yeah.
things Marcellus want to hear.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, wait till we get to
I
the
know.
hot tub
Oh my gosh,
conversation.
my husband watched that episode with me, and it yeah, okay.
I, I will say I have such a back and forth on
Oh,
my
that's fine.
feelings with Roddy because he will act in ways that I don't like, that I think are kind of like morally superior to everyone, and then he'll
Mm,
claim not to be that, and it'll
mm,
just frustrate me. But then there's these other times where he's being very human and he's being very like likable and respectable, and where you watch him talk to people and he really makes you feel like you're the most important person in the
mm,
world,
yeah,
and those are the times where like okay, I buy into it. I can see why people are so enamored with this guy.
yeah.
But so yeah, I very much even this week was going very back and forth on my feelings towards him.
Well, wow, I'm shocked to hear that.
Oh yeah.
I am really shocked. Well, not to say that she would not have picked up on it, but for me, I'm just like, again, it's his charm.
Yeah.
And he's that generic guy that is generically attractive in
Right.
general.
Right.
And so I'm like, he knows when to put it on and whatever that means and however form, you know? And so and I guess I've never looked at it as I don't know how to take him. It's
Okay.
just for me, I feel like he's an opportunist. It's like you have the opportunity to put your charm on right now. They're falling for it. I'm doing it.
That yeah, I mean, that's a fair point.
Wow.
He's very, Hollywood, he
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And he's a writer. So I mean, come on. Come on. Like it's just like fitting. So yeah. Yeah. Like in Hollywood. Like yeah. I get it. I get you. I get you.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, so, Roddy says in the DR that, Marcellus doesn't understand that I'm playing this game straightforward, which, is something that I don't really believe, but of course we've talked about it and what exactly it is that he's doing. So Danielle kind of comes into this conversation. She walks up, she sits down, and in the diary room, she tells us that she thinks Marcellus is onto her, and she is
Mhm.
worried with whether or not Marcellus has a deal with Roddy.
Yeah.
And so we get not really a confirmation necessarily, but we do get Marcellus saying, I like the person who Roddy portrays himself to be to me. I trust the things that he says. Everybody else seems to want to go after Roddy, but I personally am not going after Roddy at this juncture. So
Mm.
there seems to be something to what Danielle is saying, even though there's no like solid deal that
Yeah.
we are seeing here yet.
But Marcellus in that DR, he did call out Danielle though, right?
I think it's a little bit later when he calls her out in terms of talking about the money. Is that
No,
what
no,
you're
no,
saying?
no, no,
Oh,
no.
oh,
That he
oh,
thinks
that she
that
like pushes her
co-
agenda.
yes, well, not necessarily her agenda, but I remember him saying that he really thought that she could win. Like I remember
Oh,
after the conversation with Roddy that he was, just again talking about that because Danielle ended up coming over to the hammock
right,
as well, and so Marcellus kind of had some thoughts about how the conversation went about, and so I remember him saying in there, he really feels like Danielle could win, and so he was like, this is somebody you need to be on the watch for. So I'm like, she wasn't wrong in
right.
thinking her thoughts of, hey, this is now a threat to me. It's just, but like you said, we did not get a concrete evidence that he's in an alliance with Roddy. So I got, yeah. But at least Marcella's eyes are open and not playing into, the Danielle web
Right.
like Lisa.
His eyes are open and his mouth is closed. But yep, not working in Danielle's favor.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so Marcellus goes to talk to Danielle. He says that he needs to talk to Amy to find out what it is that Chiara said to her. And Danielle tells him that she needs to remind Amy that they both were on the block last week
Mm-hmm.
because of Roddy and Chiara. And so yeah, I mean that is a fair point there. We then get a conversation between Roddy and Jerry where Roddy tells Jerry that Josh had said before he left that if Amy got back in the house, she wouldn't forgive Roddy, and this is something that has kind of been weighing on him since then. And Roddy says in the DR, it's kind of scary that Amy can just come back in here and stir the pot,
Yeah.
which is a sentiment that we get from some other people as we go along here. Um, then we just get kind of a generic montage of Marcellas and Amy kind of coming back together and their new adventures in the house together. There really wasn't anything there for me, but
just the gossiping
then
and
we go on to the food competition
of course.
where they essentially are in one of those like money boxes
Yeah.
that you'd go on the old game shows and you'd be on the box and you'd have to grab as much money as you can. And so that is essentially they have to collect 10 food vouchers and as much money as they can. They then, like, however many food vouchers they get, I believe, is how much food they get for the week. And then the money is something separate that they can kind of have to like send someone a gift outside of the
Something.
house.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing really here for me other than we find okay, there's
So there, the one thing in regards to the money,
okay, yeah.
and that is Danielle orchestrating that
Uh,
to have all of the money for everyone to kind of grab the money together to give to Jerry to go send to his wife for their anniversary. Anyway, I say all of that to say because in my mind, what she's doing is perfect jury management. Is 100% what she's doing. And I'm like, again, she's a freaking mastermind behind all of this. And I'm just like, but to get these people to come together to say, I'm going to give my money to this person, and it's a notable, a good, great reason. And so, but again, but she's this mastermind. And so, but anyway, I just feel that she was, like I said, jury management is all that I saw. That's all that I saw. Like it was her idea. Yeah.
yeah, that is a fair point. I think a lot of times I just kind of blow through these competitions and well, I don't there are times where I'm thinking about kind of how the things they're doing during these competitions kind of affect the larger game, and there's other times where I don't recognize it. So I do appreciate you pointing that out because you're right. It's a good move.
It
It's
is.
and I feel I feel like in the modern age of a show like Big Brother or Survivor, these types of things would very much be seen as strategy and a bit more fake. But I think
Mm-hmm.
in this particular season, this particular era, it's a situation where people can see it as a more genuine thing, even if they know that there might
That.
be a little bit of an ulterior motive there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he gets $222 and he's gonna buy his wife an orange tree for their 28th wedding anniversary. I guess that's what you do for the 28th anniversary.
I
Or
don't even know how to respond to like what the. And again, no judgment. I'm trying my best not to judge them. I am trying my best because it's their personal relationship. They do what they want to do with their money. But a tree. Come
right.
on, Jerry. Come on. Oh my
Like
gosh.
it's a tree that he doesn't have to plant and he doesn't have to water for at least 2 more months. So,
But hey, if she likes it, I love it.
right. So, after the food competition, Amy and Jerry talk in the HOH room. Amy
Mm-hmm.
says that she only won HOH to have safety. She does not want to be the executioner. And Jerry is she makes some comment about Jerry still being there, and Jerry's like, yeah, I can't believe that I have lasted this long. But before we get into kind of what people are saying about Jerry at this point, I think it's interesting, this idea that Amy was only thinking about the safety of winning HOH, and that she was not super interested in, being the
Mm.
executioner, making the choice. And the reason that I say that is, like, I 100% I 100% believe that the only thing she was thinking about was
Yeah.
being safe, and not the actual consequences of winning HOH. But in terms of kind of her attitude throughout the week about what people are making her do, it just seems like, okay, you didn't want to be the executioner, but that leaves you in a position to have the house essentially use you. And so
Mm.
I kind of feel like it's weird that she doesn't see that. I mean,
Mm.
I guess she was trying to keep control of her HOH and ultimately was able to do that. But I think that when things start getting kind of shaky and she sees maybe the control is getting away from her, it's like, well, yeah, but this is what you wanted, though. You said you didn't want to
Yeah.
be the executioner. So,
Yeah. That's true. You're right. I didn't look at it that way, honestly. And I really forgot that she even made that statement of, basically she just wanted to just kind of coast and make her way through and survive, I should say, another week. So I forgot. I forgot. I forgot. I really did. I did. I did. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I don't know about Amy, but you know,
But at least she's talking gameplay, because even with this
yeah,
conversation
yeah,
with Jerry, I think she, what did she say? I want you basically to vote this way to get Chiara out, or whatever she said, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then I won't
right,
vote
yeah,
you out next week or whatever.
yeah,
And so, again, at least she's talking gameplay at this point.
right,
Like at least I'll give her credit for that.
yeah, yeah. That is true. So, so yeah. In terms of Jerry, we get a couple of DRs of people saying, Jerry does a good job of watching his back, or,
Mhm.
Jerry's a weasel. If Big Brother is a prison, he is the prison bitch.
Marcellas.
With Yep,
Oh, Jesus. Who says that? Who says that?
he's got away with words. He's
Yeah.
he's very deliberate in the language he chooses, for sure. Yeah, I don't
Oh
know.
my
I
God.
don't know. But yeah, so Marcellus says that Jerry seeks out powerful people. He weasels his way into being around them, and Roddy gives Jerry a little more credit. He says that he's smarter than people thinks. He plays a lot of defense to get you to make a mistake, and he's thought things through, so he knows an opportunity when he sees one. And then, of course, we get a montage of Jerry just making these deals, and I do think Roddy's probably giving Jerry a bit too much
Yeah.
credit there.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
he's good with the Jerry's good with the chess metaphors, but I don't necessarily think that he knows enough about the game to really force people into making a mistake like you might in chess.
Agree.
Yeah,
Agree. Agree. And now, on one hand, he hasn't touched the block, which we,
that is
they
true.
they bring up quite often. But that's, he hasn't. So he survived this long, and that's even after using the power of veto from his that first win, and going against what the house wanted. So he's survived this long, so he's doing something right. But I also think that his personality has led people to kind of see him as less of a threat, maybe more annoying and less of a threat to actually win the competition.
Yeah, I agree. You know, because yeah, he's not a block star. He's not. the Josh that they're putting up every week. Like, he could have easily gone up this week,
Yep.
and he didn't. So that
Mhm.
is kind of credit to him. We get Lisa kind of saying that he's still here because everybody in the house wants to go up against him at the end, and
Uh,
he's she says he's getting the last laugh, and seems like he is,
he is.
because for as much as people don't respect him, like they're not doing anything about it, and
Mm-mm.
which I think is uh, kind of wild.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so this kind of leads into the kind of main course of the episode here, the big tease that we got at the end of last week, where the house guests get a luxury competition. They have these CD cases that they have to find around the house that makes some kind of puzzle that will give them a message that they need to decode, and they are able to do that and find out that the prize for winning the luxury competition is a private concert in the backyard, as Cheryl Crow is there to entertain the house guests. And so they all rush out as Cheryl and the band begin to play. And what did you think of?
Why would you ask me that? Why would you ask me that?
You were you, you looked like you had some thoughts.
Well, I will say I wrote down what the hell was Big Brother thinking. Like this is not something I would have ever done. Um, and Cheryl Crow and the band, they looked so annoyed and boring,
Uncomfortable.
like uncomfortable. Probably is the best way to
Yeah,
put it. They probably were, and I was telling Winston about it because we're sitting here watching this, and I'm just like, I can imagine if you're used to selling out these big stadiums and I'm sitting here performing for 5 people, like there's no energy, there's not enough energy in here to even make me, like want to show up a little bit. And so I even think she referenced something like, she's like, I feel like I'm paying for a bar mitzvah or a sweet
right.
16 party or something, right? And I'm just like, yeah, because at your level, you're no longer doing shit like that. You're not doing that anymore. And so it was weird. It was for me, it was uncomfortable watching them be uncomfortable and even try to put on this facade that they actually love them and the band, because I'm like, I can't see that happening either. And I think Marcellas and maybe even Danielle said something to the effect of, you just had, or Lisa is who it was. You hadn't seen anyone else other than the people in the house. And so I get the excitement of that piece, but that's it. Like that's it. I was not a fan of this at all. Sorry. Sorry, Cheryl.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Don't tell me you love this concert. Please don't tell me that.
I didn't love. It was entertaining, and it seemed like they enjoyed it a little bit. I do understand that. Like, yeah, it's weird if you are like you know a big selling recording artist, and you're doing this like backyard concert. It's weird. It's just, I think I was more surprised that they got Cheryl Crow.
Oh.
Like, that's a pretty big it's a pretty big name,
Yeah. Yeah.
for that time period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, but I like her music. It's very fun. I wrote down she's got weird verses, but these are pretty catchy choruses. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, this is not the last time that they do this
Oh
on
Jesus.
Big Brother. So
Oh my
But the thing is, like, it gets worse and worse. Like the talent that they get is worse. Like, not these big names anymore. Like the biggest one, oh god. Well, I guess I won't spoil it, but yeah,
Okay.
this is not the last time that Big Brother does this, and yeah, it's just unnecessary every single
It
time they
is
do it. But
100%
this was
unnecessary.
probably the best version of this that we get.
You've got to be kidding me. Oh
It, from
shit.
from my so I'll
Oh my
spoil
god.
it for you because it doesn't matter. But like in Big Brother 18, they get
Mm,
Ziggy Marley
I don't even
to
know who that
do.
is.
He's the son of Bob Marley.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
have you ever heard the Arthur theme song?
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
He wrote that song.
Oh,
He
that's pretty
does
cool.
that song. So
Mm,
that's the only thing I
wow.
know from him. Um, and he didn't even play it.
Oh.
So, and then Big
Mm,
Brother 20, they get BB Rexa.
I don't know who that is either.
She was big in 2018 and then just kind of fell off. So,
Yeah, yeah. Mm-mm,
um,
mm-mm. I'm
you know,
sorry.
I
I'm gonna do my Kiki
respect.
Palmer. I'm sorry to those people. I don't know.
I know who Kiki Palmer is. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
she
okay,
was
okay.
a big part of my childhood. So,
Way to go.
yeah. Um, I respect that they're spending a lot of money this season.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's
It's not paying
entertaining
off
for
for
at
me.
least that reason.
Okay,
So anyway, we
good.
we finish the concert.
Mhm.
She says goodbye after touching all of them, and Marcellas gives Amy the lowdown on Chiara and Roddy, and Amy asks him if he wants her to put Chiara up against Roddy. And Marcellas says in the DR, Amy's like me. She secretly wants Roddy to stay. So we kind of know where Amy's head is at a little bit. We get a conversation between Lisa and Danielle where they say that they know that Marcellus trusts Roddy, and if he has a verbal agreement with Roddy, there is no way he is going to go against that. And
Mhm.
Danielle tells Lisa that the votes will tell.
Which
So
is true.
similar, yeah, very, very similar to last week when she was able to kind of expose Kiara's vote. We have a similar situation here where they'll be able to tell for sure if Marcellus is with them. So we get a conversation then between Danielle and Amy where Amy says that she wants Kiara out and Danielle is trying to get her to target Roddy. Amy says here that she doesn't believe in revenge, and Danielle is trying to tell her that it's going to be hard to get Kiara without Roddy out of the picture, but Amy doesn't care here. I
I don't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
all I was going to say is I don't believe it was pissing me off how much Amy was like, this isn't a revenge thing. This isn't a revenge thing. The entire episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it
I don't.
is.
I don't believe in revenge. Like we don't do that. We don't do revenge.
Right. It's no, it's that Southern Belle type of thing that she's trying to do. Like, I'm from the South and we are just this polite and kind folk.
Mm.
It's
Oh my God, I know I'm supposed to be insulted by that, but I just can't. I can't because it's true. It is true. It is true. I'm sorry, Memphis. I'm sorry because it's true. It's true. So, on another note, within this conversation,
yeah.
so Danielle in this conversation with Amy is what was pissing me off. I was like, because from a Danielle's perspective, whether you get out Roddy or Kiara, it really doesn't matter. They are both in cahoots. You just need to get rid of one of them. What is this big ordeal about wanting to get rid of Roddy? And I'm like, and then pushing it so hard. And, if he stays in the house and, like, I just, again, I don't understand Danielle in this whole thing. Like, let it go. Amy is the HOH. And if she says she wants Chiara out, let me support you. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I I agree with you there. I think that in terms of like you're right that it doesn't really matter what pieces you get off the board at which time, or it doesn't matter if he leaves this week or if he leaves next week.
Next week.
And this is something where it's like once you get your mind set on one particular target and you keep kind of going after that target, one, eventually they're going to find out that you're after them and they're going to feel like any relationship they had with you up to that point is insincere.
Yeah.
And then the other point is if you're so fixated on one person, you're not going to be able to see other people that are coming after you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you've got this tunnel vision, and I think that is, at least part of the reason why she's slowly losing Marcellas here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Crazy. Oh, she's crazy.
She is. So so then Amy has a conversation with Roddy later where she basically gives him the lowdown that she was essentially given the HOH so that she would be able to get one of Roddy or Chiara out. And it is at this point that we flash back to the HOH competition where we see that Lisa threw the competition, Jason also through the competition, and both of them told her that she needed to listen to Marcellas this week. And so that is information that kind of one makes Amy sound a little bit delusional earlier in the episode here when she's like, I can't believe I won this. And, you know, I'll stop doing the accent. I'm not trying to pick on Memphis.
Yeah, sure. But I'm like, Danielle threw the competition as well.
Right.
She was trying to pass it off. And I'm like, the only other person that could have really, and I guess Jerry just wasn't in the loop. But I'm
Right.
like, the only other person is Roddy. And I'm like, but you're the first one out.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested. I mean, we can't go back, turn back time. But I would have been very interested to know if Roddy would have tried to stay, like
Right.
what would have happened.
Right.
And so, I just hate we don't get that. I hate he jumped out so early, just stupid. Oh, so stupid. But here we are. But you're right. But I
Right.
couldn't even understand, like, why is this conversation happening? Why is she feeling the need to even tell Roddy any of this?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I'm not entirely sure. My only thing is that, maybe with all of this pressure that she's starting to get from people like Danielle, that she kind of feels like I'm not going to play their game. I'm not going to,
Mm,
I don't want to be told what it is that I am doing here. That
gotcha.
that is really the only thing that I can really think of.
Mm, gotcha. Gotcha. I mean, now, because Roddy did say that as well to her, make sure you're doing this for you. I think I
Mhm.
remember hearing him say, like, during that
Right.
conversation.
Yes.
So, yeah, and he was putting the charm on her, and she was falling for it.
Mhm.
Like every bit, I was just, yeah. I was like, I don't know. They have drank his Kool-Aid, and I don't understand why. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it either. So because Amy is saying to him like I don't want to put you on the block.
Mhm.
Roddy's telling her don't listen to what anyone else is telling you to do, and that you know the people that are the ones that are pushing you to do something are the
Mhm.
ones that are bullying you,
Yeah,
and here I am, like I'm not telling you what to do. I mean, you can put me up, but then you're doing the bidding of people that are bullying you, but I don't want to tell you what to do. uh I I didn't like when he said, "Have I ever given you a reason not to trust me?"
oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, "Yeah, you got me out of the house, you
you
moron."
know, we have to forget that week. That's just it's one of those things. It's like Bruno. You just don't talk about that week. She's supposed to forget, right?
Right, right. I yeah, I mean, yeah. Let bygones be bygones. It's a clean slate, I guess. So
Yeah, crazy.
So Amy then tells Marcellas her plan.
Mhm.
She wants to put Jason up next to Chiara, and Marcellus tells her that he will protect her as much as
Mhm.
he can. And so Amy says in the DR, I'd rather do what I want than to do what others want and be out the next week,
Mhm.
which I understand. She is getting out someone that is going to be coming after her. I don't necessarily think that it's a good idea if you're coming back into the game to just start being a puppet for other people here.
Mhm. I agree.
I do wonder, even though she ends up getting the result she wants, how much control she really has throughout the week here. But it's good she's at least sticking to her guns.
Yeah.
So then we get this conversation that we alluded to earlier with Roddy and Marcellus in the hot tub, and Roddy proposes a final two to Marcellus, and Marcellus immediately accepts. And
Yeah.
like the thing about this conversation,
Wait a minute. Sorry, I had a flash. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Excuse me.
okay. Well, so what I was thinking was that, like, you can literally see Marcellus swooning. Like, you can feel the swoon just
Yes.
coursing through him.
Yes.
Like, he's it is pretty wild to kind
Yeah.
of watch that happen.
But I mean, but Roddy was laying it on
Oh yeah,
thick.
yeah,
Like I mean, so thick. I'm like, you already you make this thing you this alluding to, or not even just alluding to, but you're just like, let's go over to the hot tub. Now we're sitting here in the hammock, but let's go over to the hot tub. And I'm
yeah.
just like, come on, and like you literally pull your pants off in front of him.
Hmm.
Literally. And I'm just like, you're doing this back and forth thing, like getting way too close and then backing up. Like, I mean, Roddy, I was just, I can't. Like, Roddy, I can't. If I've never rooted for you, Roddy, but I damn sure don't want you to win now. Like this, you can't. Like, come on, like you going too far. I'm sorry. And even poor Marcellas, because he's like he knows, like you're not stupid because he brought up
Right.
several of these things in the DR, but you're still going along with it. Like you're still agreeing to these terms, and it's just again, Roddy is gonna backfire in Marcellus's face, and I'm here to see it. So I'm sorry. That's I'm here.
So I don't know if you've ever seen the show Lost, but
No, I've heard of it, but never actually seen an episode.
so there's this villain in the show called the Man in Black, and there are a, a couple of characters at different points in the show that are tasked with trying to kill him, and they're always told, don't let him get a word in. If you let him speak to you, then he's already won. And that is kind of the vibe that I'm getting from Roddy here,
Yeah.
where if you let the guy open his mouth and
Mhm.
start speaking to you, you're going to be under his spell immediately, and you won't be able to do anything about it. So,
So Danielle actually clocked that earlier. I think she said, "What did the devil say?" I think
oh
is what
yeah,
she said to Marcellas. Like, what did the devil say? And I can't remember Roddy's. Marcellas's response right now. But Danielle clocked it. Like same thing. Like yeah, he's yeah.
yeah,
Roddy's something serious.
he's the serpent. He's the devil.
Yep, yep,
Um,
yeah. Sorry, Roddy. I'm sure you're a nice person.
right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. So then we get a conversation between Amy and Danielle where she tells Danielle that she's putting Jason up against Chiara, and Danielle is pleading to her not to do this, and she's like, if Jason goes home, I'm gonna throw a fit. I
Yeah.
am going to lose it. And so this leads to Amy being like, okay, if I don't do that and I do put up Roddy like everybody seems to want me to do, I need you to ensure me that you will vote out Chiara. And so Danielle finally agrees to that deal there. And so that leads us into the nomination ceremony where, just like she said she would, she nominates Roddy and Chiara, and of course is swearing up and down that she is not revengeful, which
Mhm.
is another word that annoys the crap out of me. 'Cause it's not a word.
Tell us how you really feel, Noah.
Some I don't know. We need more Roddies. We need more book people in here,
Oh no,
not
that's where we're
people that
gonna
say
disagree.
revengeful.
We're gonna disagree on that.
Okay,
We have one
so
rotted. We don't need another.
all right. I don't know what Marcellus would do with himself. He'd
I
probably
know.
run out the door screaming.
I didn't even think of that concept. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It'd be. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, uh, Kiara is of course upset
Oh
following
yes.
this nomination, and Lisa goes out to console her. Roddy goes to console Amy, and then afterwards goes to console Kiara. But, Kiara is given up. She is like, I want everyone to know that I want to be voted out. I don't want it to come down to sides here. And, so we have a little bit of that starting. We're gonna get so much more of it, and it just her whole attitude annoys me.
The hell out of me too. Yeah. Yeah. Like, but you said it perfectly earlier, and that's this whole high school drama scene,
Yeah,
and that's what it really put me back in the mindset of when I saw her. Even when she immediately stormed off, I was just like, "You're an adult. Use your words, control and manage your emotions. This is a game. This is not life or death. Like what you're doing right now, you're throwing a tantrum.
yeah.
You're throwing a tantrum and like and shit, girl, you're over 30. Like, or whatever, like stop. It's so, so sorry. Sorry.
Oh
She
God, I
pisses
hope
me
she's
off.
not over 30.
I don't know what the hell she
I
is,
don't know.
but she's too damn old to be
Too damn.
doing this.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. So
Mm.
Danielle tells Amy and Marcellus that she wants to win the veto to keep things the same, which is, of course, par for the course for Danielle.
One thing
Yep.
back when after Marcellus and Amy was having the conversation and Roddy walked in to do the hugging and all that other stuff.
Yep.
And Amy was feeling bad about the nominations, but she said something that I didn't even think about. But she was just like, whether I was here or not, the two of them would have been on the block. And
Right.
so I'm really glad she said that because that was the 100% truth. Like, no matter who it was, like the two of them, if it wasn't one of the two of them being the head of household, they would have been on the block. And so I'm like, Amy was just so happened to have been, here that week. And so I'm just glad she mentioned it, that her eyes were open to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. I don't think that it makes it like it's not going to make Kiara feel uh any better about Amy, but that's a very good point, that this is not necessarily something that Amy should be like taking punches for.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
so we kind of get the first inkling that Roddy kind of knows that something's up with Danielle here. He makes a comment to, I believe it's Chiara and Lisa, about Danielle wanting him out. He says she was the only one not to console him, and you know, he tells Chiara and Lisa to kind of keep that on the down low.
Hmm.
I mean, he's not wrong, and that is somewhat of a sign there, but it's also kind of like, oh, she didn't, you know,
She didn't say,
she yeah,
yeah, yeah,
right. She didn't say like, oh my God, Roddy, like I can't believe that they did this to you, and she's not like sobbing like the rest of the house. So, um,
yeah.
but yeah, he's on to you, Danielle. So be careful. Um, so this kind of leads into an interesting segment where Danielle's in the diary room and she's telling us that sometimes you have to pretend to be on somebody's side, and so she is seen at the hammock with Roddy, and they're talking about the POV comp, and she insinuates that if she won it, she would take him down. And then, you know, there is a conversation that Danielle has with Kiara where she's kind of doing the opposite of she's trying to play Roddy, but here with Kiara, it's like she's keeping her opinions really to herself, and really kind of being closed off here, and she's in
Cryptic.
the yeah, cryptic,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
and she's in the DR being like, I'm good, and I
Hmm.
was like, is she though? Like, is this a good move?
And it's not even executed properly. I was sitting there, I was telling Winston, I said, I've named her to be this big mastermind. And I'm just like,
Right.
you're doing shit like this, it just makes you look stupid. I was like, what you just said it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Zero. Like, what are you doing? Like, what was the purpose? Like, nobody's going to believe that you're going to use the damn power veto.
Right.
Nobody believes that. So I don't know. I don't. Obviously, it didn't backfire in her face immediately, but I do wish that Roddy or Kiara would have called her out on it, like in our faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it seems like the way that the veto functions in this season is people are like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
We saw Jerry do it in week one, and that is a choice that he's never recovered from.
True.
And
True.
so with Danielle saying this to Roddy, it's like, eh, yeah, don't play, don't. And it's such like a basic lie that anybody can. It's like one of the easiest lies to see through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Silly.
then, as far as Chiara is concerned, like you're doing the opposite. You're giving her nothing. You're not giving her a reason to think that you're on her side. So,
Yeah. Silly.
um,
Very silly.
so then Danielle and Jason talk about getting Roddy out, and they say that the only one likely to save him is Jerry, besides Chiara, of course. And Jason asks Danielle if Lisa will vote with them, and Danielle says yes, she definitely will. And Jason tells her to tell Lisa that once she decides, she should only tell one of them which way it is that she is voting. And so I like that. Yeah, I think that that's good. I think one of the things that I'm kind of noticing about this season and kind of digging into the live feeds a little bit, the idea that if you make a verbal agreement with someone, then they just 100% expect you to stick with it, which
Oh
like is
yeah.
no surprise in
Well,
Big Brother, but at the same time, it's like it's almost like a moral imperative type of thing where like if you tell me one thing and then you do this other thing, like I don't see that as um I don't see that as just the game. I see that as a personal attack. And so I think kind of keeping your vote close to your chest is kind of the better move here.
are you saying that you personally feel that will be a personal attack, or are you saying that that's how the people in the house are feeling?
I'm saying that's kind of how they perceive it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotcha. That's what I thought. That's what you were saying. I'm just
Yeah,
clarifying.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, because it feels like people are very much on a moral high ground. More
yeah,
more so than we usually see in
yeah.
Big Brother. That I think that this idea of like if she decides what she's going to do, she needs to tell one of us and nobody else, so that she's not
Hmm.
beholden to anything. I think that that is uh, a good move there. Good kind of insight on Jason's part.
Yeah, yeah.
So this leads us into the POV competition. It is called Slippery Proposition, and essentially they're just like going down a slip and slide, and
Yeah.
there's a line that they have to get close to without going over. And so, interesting competition. Jerry wins.
Way to go,
So
Jerry.
good for him. This is what his second win of the season. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good on him. Like I said, Veto King. Uh so Marcellus is pissed off about it, of course.
Yes. Oh, yes, he is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Marcellus is pissed off about it, and Danielle is concerned he'll use it. Which is of course a concern that's warranted. But
Did you
yeah,
clock what Marcella said? Like he was just like he said this 51-year-old fat ass one. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that was just cruel. That was so cruel for no reason.
I do remember it now that you said that. I didn't have the direct words written down, but I was just thinking like, oh my God, can you imagine if Josh was still in the house? He
Oh
he would be like,
yes.
I can't. Of course, that fat bastard was
He
able to.
would have said way worse. He would have said way
Oh yeah,
worse. But I mean, if you're looking at physics, you know what I mean. Like, I mean, he does have a higher probability of sliding a little bit further, and so at least in my mind, that's how I viewed it. And so I was like, okay, it didn't surprise me until again Marcellus, so and being upset.
yeah, yeah. Oh boy. So Chiara, of course, is really pissed off, and
Yes.
this is really when she goes off. Like
Just
this is her big thing where she's like, I can't believe that someone who hasn't been in the house in 2 weeks gets to make this decision, which, by the way, is like the most reasonable thing she says in this entire tirade.
agree, agree, agree.
But but then she goes on some bullshit about how she hasn't had a chance to compete. And I'm like, you have been in the house a entire month. You haven't done shit, and now you feel like, oh, I was just getting ready to really get in the game, and oh, now I can't because Amy's here.
And had I known that someone was coming back into the house, I would have never won the power of Vita or the head of household.
HOH, yeah.
Yeah, like come on, just girl, stop. Like you come on, just yeah. But she is going for Amy. It's just like that bitch didn't deserve to win, and I just like Chiara is on a downward spiral.
Yeah, I agree with her a little bit that the announcement for like someone's returning to the house, I think it did come after the HOH competition that she had already won, and I don't think that that was a great choice. I feel like that announcement should have been made kind of leading into,
But why?
because I do think that there is some legitimacy to the idea of, if you know someone that might be coming after you is coming back into the house, then it might be better to have the option of throwing it. But for the most part, like she's just throwing a fit
Yeah.
because she went from top dog to
Mm-hmm. On the
whatever it is
block.
she is now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't handle losing. So, and especially not losing to Amy,
At all. At all.
which does kind of sweeten things. So at least we get that little treat there. Yeah, so we get that, and then we get Amy in the DR saying, it would be like Chiara to preach honesty when she hasn't been honest. So
Which is true.
it's true. It's
She
very
proved
fair.
that with Lisa.
So yeah. Then we get a conversation between the women where
Mm.
they talk about whether or not they have had a lesbian
Oh
experience.
yes. Oh yeah.
Not much there to see.
It wasn't. I just said it was like the wine. Like I was just like the women in
Right.
wine. It was like the wine segment.
But it comes back a little bit later as we're uh, kind of focused in on Roddy later on in the week here.
Oh yeah.
So Marcellas and Danielle have a conversation, and Danielle tells him that she's here to play this game, and she says all she wants to do is get to the end. And this is where we get a diary room from Marcellas where he says, the only problem that I've had with Danielle is that she works her agenda a little too much. She makes this seem so make or break for her family and for her life. And then we get Roddy basically saying the same thing, saying she's playing the poor angle, but
Mm-hmm.
she's saying it as she's playing a game on national TV. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what do you think about that, and this idea that Danielle really is kind of pushing like the I'm doing this so that I can get money for my family angle?
So I think so. I'm conflicted
Okay.
because to hear Roddy say and use the terms, this is not the Make a Wish Foundation.
Right.
For me, that is a little degrading. However, what Danielle is doing is the exact same thing that Roddy is doing, and Jerry, using what you have to get you further along in this competition. And so
Right.
I don't necessarily hate her for it or dislike her for it. But I could see how it could get old very quickly. I could
Mhm.
see how, when she does slip, and if she's consistently talking about this, and I could see how it could get old. But my pushback or my concern for Danielle specifically is I'm used to seeing you as this mastermind. I'm used to
Yep.
seeing you as this person behind the scenes. I would only assume that you would not want to say that too frequently in
Yep.
regards to, I need this money. I've got to win, because it again, it makes you look like this hungry bee that is all about the game. And every single conversation you had was superficial. And
Right.
so, and if I believe that from the outside looking in, I would hope that at least popped in her mind at some point while she was having these conversations.
Yeah, I think it's an angle that she doesn't necessarily need to play. I think that
Mhm.
uh, that, like you said, the idea of if that becomes her thing, where like, oh, people know that she's doing this for her family and she really needs this money for her family, it kind of begs the question, like, okay, how much, like, what will she do to
Mhm.
get the money? Like, what is she
Mhm.
willing to do to get the money? And so that kind of then, like you said, puts them in a position where they are kind of questioning just how authentic the conversations that she's had with them are.
Mhm.
I will also say I think that this is a strategy that rarely works in Big Brother. You know, this idea of I'm playing for my family and I need this money so badly, simply because when you do that, you're playing against, eight other people, nine other people in the house that all have different reasons for why they are there. And you don't necessarily have other people in the house that are playing for these big altruistic reasons. Some of them are playing because, they want a new car, or, they want to pay rent, just something that isn't as altruistic. And so if you're playing that angle too much, then it's kind of like other people might be like, okay, well, if you're doing it for a super altruistic reason and I'm not, then I don't want you in the game. Because if I'm sitting next to you, like, who do I think they're going to vote
We'll
for?
go for the sympathy vote. Will go to get. You're right. Yeah.
And then there's kind of the what Marcellus says is the more that she does it, the more I'm thinking if she gets to the end, I don't want to vote for her. You know, you know, it because it shouldn't be a game of who needs the money more,
Mhm.
y- so
Because I'm
yeah,
like,
and
you on the
yeah,
show, you signed up for it, so apparently
right,
you want the money. Hell, everybody wants the money.
right, yeah.
So,
Some people were willing to give up half of it to
half
get
of it.
into the house.
Yeah, sure. Signed a
Yeah.
contract for
Yeah. Yeah, it's just something that, like like you said, with how strategic she is, she needs to really be thinking about what it is that she's saying and how often she's saying it, and it's
it.
just it's not something I think she even needs to be doing. There are other ways to get yourself further in the game and get that money. So, yeah, we then get a conversation between Lisa and Amy where Lisa asks if Amy is really gung ho about getting Chiara out, and Chiara says, "Yep, absolutely. Amy seems to get her to agree to vote Roddy out. But she does say to Lisa, like, if you do this, of course I am more than willing to vote Roddy out down the line. So, you know, then we get a conversation between Danielle and Amy where Danielle agrees to vote out Chiara, but she says, like, this is going to kill me if I walk out those doors before Roddy does. And so we start kind of finally getting to the end of the episode here. We get Chiara and Roddy talking on the hammock. Chiara, of course, is ready to go. She says, you know, I don't want to be here anymore, so let's hope that something happens at this POV meeting. But unfortunately for the two of them, Jerry decides not to use the veto this time, and that is where we think the excitement will end for the episode. But we do get a little bit of a confrontation between Roddy and Danielle, where Roddy confronts Danielle about telling people for weeks that she wants him out, and she denies it. But the thing is,
Boldly.
boldly denies
Yes.
it,
Mm-hmm.
and is pretty proud of herself in the diary room for
Mm-hmm.
lying to him so expertly.
Mm-hmm.
But the kind of interesting development here is that in the process of them having this conversation and Roddy kind of telling her some of the things people have been saying, he uses a lot of verbiage that gets Danielle to realize that Marcellas is the one that's been ratting her
Mm-hmm.
out. And so that kind of puts her on the warpath toward Marcellas a little bit, or at least puts him more in the crosshairs there. She tells Lisa this information. She then suggests that they vote out Chiara to throw Roddy off the scent. But we end the episode with Lisa insinuating that she doesn't know where her vote will be going, and it's kind of up in the air there.
Okay, now. Mm-hmm.
So we get to our eviction episode. We are at day 48 in the Big Brother house, and it opens with the house guests getting autographed t-shirts and CDs from Sheryl Crow. Amy is overjoyed as Chiara looks on with disgust. And this leads into a conversation between Chiara and Roddy, where Roddy tells her that he is preparing to leave the house, and he tells her not to go seeking revenge.
So this is one of those other things, back to what you were saying when Roddy's on this up and down, whatever. This is
Yep.
another one of those things where, like, if you really believe him and you're just like, hey, if I'm gone, don't seek revenge, you would assume he's doing that out of the kindness of his heart. It's not a point to it. You would assume he actually, likes Amy, so it's just you really don't know how to take him. Like you just you don't. You don't.
No, you do not. He,
So
yeah, yeah, he seems so like knight in shining armor one moment, and then the next just very pretentious and morally upright. So Chiara, of course, is complaining about how unfair the whole thing is, and then we basically get a flashback where Marcellus is telling Amy, like, hey, you shouldn't nominate Chiara. Like, yes, she's been mean to you, but, like, she didn't nominate you. And Amy says that that's just because she didn't have the chance. And let's be real, like, she was controlling Body's HOH week. So
yeah,
she
yeah.
she just as good as put her up. So Chiara kind of starts counting the votes. She told Jason and Jerry to vote for Roddy to stay, and she says she knows. Is it? Uh, I believe she says she knows that Lisa will vote for her to go, and then she says she doesn't know where Marcellus stands, and this leads into a conversation between Marcellus and Danielle where they're talking about getting Roddy out, and Marcellus plays along and later tells Chiara that he'll vote for her to stay, and he warns her that people are lying to her face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he's getting his claws in there. He's stirring up some trouble, stirring the
And
pot
I
there.
don't know why. I don't understand why. I don't. I can't figure that one out.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a similar thing of if people are gonna start telling me what I need to be doing, then
Mm, you did say that.
it's a stubborn thing because he talks a lot about um forget what he called it, but like vote loading, where people are essentially trying to get you to vote one way and being real insistent about it. And he
Mm,
does mention that really bothers him. Yeah, he's doing too much.
yeah.
He's doing too much. So Chiara later talks to Danielle and tells her what Marcellus said, and this throws even more fuel on the fire that Marcellus is trying to throw her under the bus. But what's interesting is that we get a diary room where Chiara says that she actually really trusts Danielle and
I was
that she,
I said since when?
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
I'm I'm guessing since that first conversation where Danielle was like, "We gotta protect the women," but
That
I
was
mean, let's put it this way: if the only other women in the house are Lisa, the woman that you just voted out, and Amy, the woman that just put you on the block, I can see why Danielle would
the next.
be the person.
Mm,
Yeah, there's not many options there, but still it's pretty interesting how much it seems that she trusts Danielle. But she tells Danielle, "Hey, if you vote me out, like I'm gonna feel betrayed." Um so then we get a diary room from Roddy where he says it'd be the smarter move if everyone got together and voted me out. We get another conversation between Danielle and Marcellas where Danielle asks Marcellas if they should let Amy know that we're voting Roddy out, and he says no, let's
mm.
wait until Thursday. But Danielle then says in the DR, I could tell this morning that he told her. I could just see something in her eyes, and yeah,
Which he did,
just he did.
but
He,
he did.
yeah, I mean, I feel like uh, uh, the only thing that's good for Danielle right now is that everything Marcellus does is so transparent that like she knows how to keep tabs on him.
Yeah.
So then we have kind of an interesting situation here where we see Jason get called to the DR to
Mhm.
vote, which is something that
We've never seen. Yes.
we've never seen in
Yeah.
this iteration of how they're doing things. And so Jason gets called to the DR. He doesn't know which way Danielle wants him to vote because things have been kind of flip flopping. And so he goes to the high rent district bedroom where Danielle is with Amy, and she's telling him vote opposite. And he's like, what? She's like, opposite, opposite. And so, of course, poor Jason has no idea what she means. And he's like, does she mean the opposite of what we said? the opposite of like the opposite of what?
Of what?
So as we cut to commercial, he's just in the diary room, just like cradling his head and like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so that was pretty funny, and we
Horrible,
yeah,
horrible.
yeah,
Because she is
yeah.
running the show. She is running the show, and it's upsetting me. Like it's upsetting me. It is. Like kind of like poor Jason. Like I
Right.
wanted you to. I was rooting. I'm still rooting for Jason to win. But I'm like, I cannot be. I can't root too hard if your brain pattern is so in tune with whatever she wants it to be. And so,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. I think Jason holds his own socially, but in terms of what he's actually doing in the game, yeah, he's given Danielle a little bit too much control there. But
Hmm.
it's entertaining for us as
It
he
is.
is yeah, driven kind of mad there. But we come back from commercial to some house guest interviews. I don't know if there is anything that stood out here for you. No, there's nothing too much for me.
No, just the house was sad, and then Julie pointed that out.
Yeah,
It was definitely a different house than it was from last week, and
yeah.
so that was definitely very interesting to see. So, but that yeah,
They should have never gotten rid of Josh.
yeah. Well, Jason said it. Jason said it. He said it. So he was gonna miss him and his humor. So he kept the house alive.
Yeah.
So.
So we cut back to a commercial, and we get a couple of votes before that happens. So we get Danielle, who says, I like Roddy a lot. I have no negative issues with him. He's just too dang clever. The man's my biggest competition in this house. That's the only thing I have to say about Roddy. Chiara is very spoiled, and a lot of times she doesn't take the time to look at the whole issue. Chiara disappointed me in this house when she turned on Lisa, and that's one thing that I can't seem to forget. I vote to evict Roddy. And then we get Jerry, who says, Chiara is very outspoken, and I find that refreshing. Chiara also has a lot of high energy at times, which is also really, really fun to be around. She's not above double dealing and saying this and doing that, so that's a negative, but that's part of the game. I think Roddy's a master gamesman. Roddy's another alpha male, as I am. And in a household like this, there can be only one. I vote to evict Chiara.
Mhm.
So there we go. We got a split vote so far as we get to commercial here. And then we come back to a segment that again is one of those up and down things with Roddy where we find out that Roddy has some things that he needs to get off his chest. And it is basically like a couple of minutes of him just tearing into Chiara, and
Mhm.
yeah, it is I don't like it. I think that like why now? Why now all of a
Oh.
sudden? I can only you know, I I don't know. I'm at a loss for words because I just feel like this is completely unnecessary as you guys are going to be apart anyway. So like what are we
Oh.
doing here?
So you mean it was unnecessary for him to do in the house or for production to spend time on this?
No, for him to do it. For, like
Oh.
it's your last week, she's a goner, like it doesn't whatever issues you got with her, figure it out after the show. Why are you leaving
Mm.
it on a bad note like this?
It was entertaining for me. I loved it. I am so happy about it because for me, what it did, it made me look at him as a human. And so because he said a lot of things about, like some things that you said, especially talking about your past sexual partners.
Right.
I would never deal with that outside of this house. Like you stabbed me, and like you said some things to me that really, really hurt. Like I would have never accepted that outside of this house. You're flirting with men in front of me. I would have never accepted that. And so like you're right. He was lighting into her, but at least he wasn't lighting into her like somebody like Amy would have or Josh would have. But I'm like, he did it in a way that obviously they were breaking up or whatever was going on in his mind. And so I enjoyed it because again, it made me realize you're obviously a human being, and that this show or this showmance it was real to a degree. And now I need to let you this is not working for me, and here's my reasons.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair. Yeah, that is a fair point because there are things like the flirting with Jason and just kind of. I think I felt like obviously I don't like that in terms of like the way that Kiara kind of acts in the house where she's kind of crass and like that conversation where they're talking about lesbian experiences,
Mhm.
even though that's not the type of person I necessarily want to be around, like that's who she is, that's part of her
Yeah.
personality that I kind of feel like yeah, I just kind of feel like tearing into her a little bit for like those kind of things. It's um I don't know.
Unnecessary.
It didn't seem completely fair to me, but
Yeah.
I do take
Yeah.
your point that
Yeah.
there was at least some stuff that I do think was kind of legitimate there. I just like I said, in terms of uh in terms of the fact that one of them's gonna be gone in a couple of days, I was just like, this probably could have waited till after the show, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Same.
So then we go back to the studio with Julie and she talks with the nominees. So she asks, how has being nominated against one another changed your relationship? Roddy says, I don't think it's really affected the relationship. It was done out of a strategy thing. It wasn't personal. And then Kiara says, it hasn't affected the relationship, but we do feel like we wouldn't have been put up if it was for another reason. So it's been a little straining. And then Julie follows that up by asking Roddy how hard it's been to essentially be a nominee for 2 weeks. And he says, I'm becoming the Susan Lucci of Big Brother nominations, which I thought was funny. And
Oh my
he
gosh.
says, but it's uncomfortable, it's stressful, and it's especially difficult going up against my good buddy here.
Yeah.
It's made my work week harder.
She has been reduced.
Right?
It was needed. It was needed. That was needed. That was needed. 'Cause I'm sick of like their relationship is. I'm sick of it. It is just yeah. But you said you didn't buy that he would actually have dated her.
Yeah, that's true. I did say that. Yeah.
So I mean, you know, he is just now coming to his senses and realizing that you were right this whole time. That's all.
Hey, you know what? That if that's the takeaway, then I'm happy to take that credit. I sent my vibes through space and time, and there we go.
Great job.
Thank you. Um, so we cut to a commercial, and as we're doing that, we get a a few more votes here, and Julie, she originally said Lisa and Marcellas were gonna be the votes that we got here. So when we started off with Jason, I was like, oh, she messed up there. But
Yeah. Same, because
she,
I thought I had misheard, and so I was just like, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go. Because I already had Jason's name written down
yeah,
next anyway. Like I
right,
did it in order of Jason, Marcellus, and then Lisa. I just ironically, and so when
right.
he started talking, I was just like, well, maybe I was wrong. So I was like, okay, let me just write this in.
Yeah, leave it to Julie to make a mistake to
uh,
short circuit.
oh my
But
gosh.
Jason says Kiki is amazing at this game. I think she's played the game very, very well. I think Kiki is less of a threat to me than Roddy. I think if Roddy stays in this house, I think he brings a lot of great wisdom and insight into how to play the game. And the same reason that I would like to keep him in the house, it's also the reason that I fear him in this house, because he is an amazing player. And I feel like if he stays here a couple of weeks, that I've given him the $500,000. And so then we get Lisa, who says, Roddy gets me a little nervous. He sneaks around without really sneaking around, if that makes any sense. Chiara was easily turned against me and campaigned against me. It was really stabbing me in the back, and it really hurt. Actually, both Chiara and Roddy have hurt my feelings when it comes to that, and it's left me in a really tough place. And then we end with Marcellas here, who says, Chiara only thinks about what's good for Chiara. Roddy has been aligned with people whose behavior has been destructive to the house, and the perception in the house was that he was the diabolical mastermind that was using other people to do his will, and that's why he should go. And so we don't get what those votes are. We just get the kind of thoughts on the two nominees there. So I did make note of that. They are kind of changing things up here, which is interesting to see. Um, so we come back from a commercial break, and Julie comes back to interview Amy, and so she asks her, during the nomination ceremony, you said putting up Chiara was not about revenge, but in private, you've made it all too clear you want Chiara out of the house. What's the real deal here? And Amy says, I do want Chiara out of the house, but it really isn't about revenge. Chiara approached me before nominations and asked me pretty much not to nominate her and not to nominate Roddy because she thought that it would be about revenge for my being evicted. It's not about that at all. She made my couple of weeks during my first stay in the house rather uncomfortable, and I feel as though she kind of mocked my values and mocked my morality several times, and it made me very uncomfortable. I just don't have a great deal of respect for her. Um, so then Julie follows that up by asking, how would you feel if it turns out that Roddy is the one who walks out tonight? And Amy says, I will be extremely upset. That's a risk that I am taking. It's the risk that I took in nominating the two of them, but it won't make it any easier. I will be slightly devastated. So, was there any insight gained for you there?
Insight, no. However, it's one of those things that we've talked about it before in regards to the HOH and having this segment with Julie on live.
Yeah,
Like that I wish would come back, and it is for reasons like this. Like I need you to clarify this. Like I've heard you say this, I've heard you say this. Now I need you to clarify. And so to see that interaction is still, I love it. And this is probably one of those things. Even though what she said was some straight BS, straight BS. However, it was one of those things that you urged to have,
right,
and so as the viewer, and so it was good to see.
right. It allows you to confirm that it's BS
Yeah.
at least. Like, okay, I mean, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if that's the story you're sticking with, then it's
Just
like, okay, now I know for sure that yeah,
mm,
you're giving me a line of crap. So
yeah, like no edit. This is just pure filler.
yeah, exactly. So thankfully, Amy gets her wish as Chiara is evicted 4-1, with Danielle being the only vote for Roddy, which means that Jason did the opposite of what Danielle wanted him to do. I don't know why that was not really clarified in the live feeds for me, so I am just assuming that I don't even know. I'm just assuming that she was like, okay, better to play ball here, but I'm gonna stick to what I want to do, even though, maybe it got something off her chest. So
For Jason? Or you talking about, I mean,
no,
for
for
Danielle
Danielle to
to vote
vote
Roddy?
for, yeah.
But so what was interesting is when Chiara was leaving, I was looking at Danielle's expression, and
Mhm,
she was in tears
mhm.
about Chiara leaving or whatever. And so, are we sure that she didn't expect everybody to vote Roddy out?
That is also a good point. It definitely could be that she kind of felt a little bit blindsided.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I had more confirmation for you, but
I mean, and now
I
she
do.
could be playing the game,
Mhm.
and playing up the tears and the sadness, So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, one thing that I have learned about Danielle is she definitely knows when to turn on them tears. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. So we get our evictee interview with Chiara, and Julie starts out by asking her, "What is your reaction to being the sixth person evicted?" And Chiara says, "It's sad. It's probably the whole way that it happened that really is upsetting." And she clarifies that she means that, just having someone return and that be the person that puts you up and that be the person that wants you out. It's upsetting because half the challenge is being in that house. And so,
Fair point.
yeah, definitely. So then Julie asks whether the relationship with Lisa in the house was real or was it strategy. And Kiara says, "I would say for the most part in the beginning, our friendship was about strategy, but I think it grew a little more. Having her not vote for me is a tough pill to swallow." And, I thought that was interesting that she started out by saying, "Oh, before it was strategy, and then it turned into a friendship."
It
Um,
ended with strategy.
yeah,
Kiara wouldn't dare. And she was annoyed by Lisa like crazy throughout the
yeah,
house. So
mhm,
that's just again more BS.
yeah. She was like, Lisa's the type of person I would never hang out with outside
She
of this house.
literally said it. She literally said it.
So
Crazy.
I just this is one of those things that, and this is something we see all the time nowadays, is people just not realizing that they're being watched 24/7. So then they
Mm-hmm.
say things that are completely contradictory, like we don't see everything.
Yep.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So Julie finishes up by asking, "Where do you see your relationship with Roddy going?" And she says, "I guess we'll see what happens when he gets out. There's so much more to explore."
Mm-hmm.
And that is some wishful thinking on her part, but,
It is.
uh, good luck to you, Kiara. So she gets her family loved one visit, and we get to watch that lovely reunion that I'm sure brought a tear to everybody's eye.
Mm-hmm.
Um as we cut to commercial, and then we come back for the HOH competition. And so it is another trivia competition called Who Said It? And essentially, Julie is going to give them a quote said by one of the 5 evicted house guests, and then there are these cubes that are in their booths, which have the faces of these 5 evicted house guests. And when they think they have the answer, then they have to put that face facing forward as their option. So this was a pretty quick
Very,
competition.
very.
Very quick. I thought it would be over in two rounds after that first one, because yeah, with the first round, we're left with Jason and Marcellas,
Yeah.
and then yeah, we go for I think 2 more rounds until we are given the result, which is that Jason is our new head of household.
Oh my gosh. I am more shocked and excited. And like I don't know what the hell he's gonna do. Cause like you haven't seen him. You have no idea what he's thinking. I mean, obviously Danielle is well, we know Danielle is running the show behind the scenes with him as her, pawn.
Mhm.
But you have no idea because I'm still stuck on this vote.
Right.
Their votes not together. So was that intentional or was it not? And so I don't like I'm tuned in yet again. Like I want to know.
Yeah, I think he's in an interesting position because he's kind of playing all sides of the house, and so when you're in the power position now, this is kind of a tough thing to balance there.
Mhm.
So I am interested to see exactly how he navigates that situation.
Yeah. Let me write my prediction down. I'm gonna say Amy and Kiara.
Kiara's gone.
Not Kiara, Roddy. Sorry.
Okay.
Amy and Roddy on block. I had Kiara and Roddy in my mind as a duo, and I was like, the other part of the duo has to go next. And so, yeah, I'm gonna say Amy and Roddy.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. So that is week 6 of Big Brother 3. Are there any final thoughts that you have about this week?
So I know the last one we watched it had a lot to say, and I told you I had to pause and go back
Yeah.
and there was a lot happening that I was trying to keep up with. This week has really made me more excited about the game.
Okay.
And so to watch the game and how everyone is thinking and then these manipulating tactics and like I don't know, like I feel like I've had more fun watching this week, which is the craziest thing to say. And so I with ending with Jason, I'm just very curious as to what he's gonna do next now.
All right. I yeah, I think this was probably one of my least favorite weeks in the game so far. Uh, I I think it had more to do with the programming schedule and
Mm,
the fact that, I had watched an entire recap and then had to take notes on an hour and a half, uh,
uh, recap.
episode here. But, I will say, like, I feel like there's kind of an energy shift in the house. I feel like we're kind of gearing up to the end game here, and so I think that there are things like you said, where there's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot of people moving in different directions, and I think that yeah, there just felt like there's a little bit of an energy shift there, and
Mm,
so I am kind of interested to see as we're going into this week or going into this next week here if it I still think things are moving in the direction I want to see them. I'm glad that Chiara's kind of gone here. She was someone that never really was doing too much
Of
for me.
anything. Like she wasn't doing anything at all in the house. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah, yeah.
ahead.
So I think that we're gonna have an interesting end game. I think as we've got some characters that are left in the house that have really been kind of given us some stuff. So I am very excited to kind of see where we end up here. I yeah, I think that everything that we've gotten up to this point is been good, and now I'm just rambling. So I'm gonna cut it off here and say that how about we plug our stuff?
Let's
Uh,
do it.
okay. If you would like, you can follow me on Twitter at Noah I will probably be moving more so to Blue Sky. Uh, but if you're watching this, then I'm already there. So uh, you can follow me at Blue Sky at noahmassey.bsky.social. And then if you want to follow the Jury House podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at house_jury, on Instagram at the Jury House podcast, and at Blue Sky at thejuryhouse.bsky.social.
So, following your lead on this, um, I'm spending almost all of my time on YouTube and TikTok. So, if
Okay.
you would like to follow me, by all means, follow Inspired by Jimmy L on those two platforms. I plan on staying there.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah, let's hope that TikTok remains.
I
But
know, I know. If not,
if
YouTube,
not, you
YouTube
got
it is
YouTube.
for me. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all that we have for you this week, and join us next time as we invite another Big Brother 3 house guest into the jury house. See you guys.
See ya.